Hi everybody, it's Miss Forslund again, and today our project is sort of inspired by a couple of different things. One, in the springtime, I teach a lesson on medieval architecture to 4th grade, and I am so sad that we're stuck in our homes and we don't get to do the castle project this year. So I thought out a project that is somewhat inspired by a holiday this week. So think back about what we celebrated this week, and you probably already know because in science or some other subject, or even on TV, you saw that we celebrated Earth Day. And it's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, which began in 1970. So to celebrate Earth Day, I'm combining my architecture unit that normally would be about castles with some of my favorite artists and architects. So let's get strapped in and ready to go. First, we got to talk a little bit about the history of our inspiration. Architecture is the design of buildings and structures. It could be a structure like the Eiffel Tower that is for the public viewing and appreciation of art, or it could be a building that you live in, like a row home or a school. It could also be a building that you only go to every now and then. For example, a concert hall. There's lots of different functions for these buildings and purposes. Architects, before they get started designing a building or structure, they need a couple different things in mind. What is going to be the use of that building or structure? Who will help them pay for it to be built? And once they have the idea all made, they still rely on builders and engineers and landscape artists and many other people to have their vision become a reality. So what architects really need to do is sell their ideas to someone who will help them get it built, or a whole team of people that will help get it built. So they have to think about what would be the most attractive to their investor and to the people who they want to work on their team. So they're thinking about the function of the building as well as the form or shape it takes. And because buildings are not drawings, form, when I say form, means 3-dimensional shape. So how big it is, how wide it is, all of those things. So to get excited about architecture, one of my favorite artists of all time is Antoni Gaudi. And Antoni Gaudi is from Barcelona in what is now Spain. And Antoni Gaudi was born in 1852 and he passed away in 1926. So he lived a while ago. He loved to design buildings that had never been seen before. Anything like them had ever been seen before. And if you'd like to see a couple of links talking about Gaudi's work, I'll link them in the description of this video below. But I think one of the things that it's important to think about when we talk about Gaudi is he made his models upside down. And he did this because he wanted them to be the biggest, tallest buildings ever. And if he built them upside down, he could suspend them from wires and build without worrying about gravity because everything was suspended from wires. Just like Iggy Peck's suspension bridge in the story Iggy Peck Architect. Gaudi also was pretty sick as a kid, so he spent a lot of time by himself in nature going on walks. So if you would like to get some inspiration before getting started on this project, go for a walk. See what you find in nature. Maybe try to build something outside in nature. Another thing about Antoni Gaudi, which you might find is similar with our next artist, Antoni Gaudi's last project of his life was his most ambitious. I actually got to visit this building myself in 2010. And this building is called La Sagrada Familia, and it's a cathedral in Barcelona. It's so beautiful. When I walked in, it was like walking into a forest. I recommend you check out any videos you can find about La Sagrada Familia, and it's supposed to be finished, I believe, in 2026. So maybe you can go when it's finished. Our second architect is ZAHA Hadid. And ZAHA Hadid was born in 1950, so after Gaudi had passed away, and she died in 2016. She's an architect from Iraq, and when she was a little girl growing up in Iraq, she loved to walk around in nature with her father and visit ruins around where she was from in Iraq. But then when she grew up, she decided to move to the United Kingdom, England. And she decided to study architecture. And as she studied architecture, she missed her home, she missed the nature. So she combined her interest in architecture with her interest in nature and created these incredible designs. And she drew out her plans and she made her models and submitted them to competitions. But everybody thought they were impossible, just like they thought Gaudi's designs were impossible. So it took her a really long time to get her buildings made. The investors didn't want to invest in this lady from Iraq who had these crazy ideas. But now you can visit her buildings in New York, in Beijing, all over the world, and they're incredible. There's one in New York, if you walk along the High Line, it's very, very cool. Now, our third artist is not an architect, but he was inspired by architecture. Boris KINGELEZ was born in 1948, and he died in 2015. He is an artist who was inspired by architecture. He was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he started out as a teacher. And then he got a job at the National Museum in Kinshasa, where he learned how to restore artworks, which is a job that you could get too. The museums in Philadelphia use art restorers to help keep all of those very old artworks safe and intact for many years for everyone to enjoy. And while he was there, he found all these materials that looked really interesting that the artworks came in or were protected by. And he also saw all of the materials around his world, and he started to build these models for buildings and cities. In 1985, he stopped working as an art restorer and became an artist full-time. He called his art extreme maquettes, or extreme models. They were models of buildings and cities. He created over 300 models of buildings and cities from common materials like I have here. His models are a way of expressing his hope for a better future for his childhood village, Kimbebele in Hunga, his city, Kinshasa, and his country, the Congo. He said of his art at one time, quote, "I make this most deeply imaginary, meticulous, and well-considered work with the aim of having more influence over life. As a Black artist, I must set a good example by receiving the light which pure art, this vital human instrument, kindles for the sake of all. Thanks to my deep hope for a happy tomorrow, I strive to better my quality, and the better becomes the wonderful. I exhibit a mode of expression which fits me like a glove, and I point out that I am another artist." The Democratic Republic of Congo has had war in its life for decades, and KINGELEZ, he understood the beauty of his country despite the problems his country was facing. And he saw the potential in the city and village where he had family and friends and decided to design his own hopes for the future. We're in kind of a tough time right now. And so I thought Boris KINGELEZ was a great inspiration for how to make our own hopes for our own city. What would you like Philadelphia to look like after we come out of quarantine? What kind of imaginary buildings would you build if you were ZAHA HADID in her workshop or GAUDI designing a giant cathedral? Think about what you have around your house that could inspire you, or your neighborhood and nature. Today, we're going to be making our own sculptures inspired by these three artists and inspired by architecture and Earth Day. That's so many things. But don't worry, I got you.